Welcome into another episode of the Film Room. I'm really excited to be joined today by someone who has been hooping at a high level for a really long time, but is finally starting to get that recognition this year. That's Harmoni Turner from over at Harvard University. Harmony, first and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been really dope because I've obviously been following you for a while, keeping up with your game, and getting to see some of the accolades really pour in this year and see you get that recognition has been really cool. So I wanted to ask first and foremost, what has that kind of been like handling that, especially breaking off with the 41 piece and 38 right after it. You guys kind of took the world by storm too with that early win at Assembly Hall. What has the start of the season been like for you as an individual and kind of handling that as a team as well?
I think in simplicity, it's been pretty fun. That's the best way I can put it. It's been really fun. The team, like we've been enjoying the process, but also understanding that the most important piece is yet to come, and I think that's something that's been on the back of our mind um, every game, and we've attacked every game like it's a championship game. And for me personally, it's been exciting. Super grateful that I'm finally starting to receive that recognition. Hopefully more comes along the way, but I'm trusting that as we continue to play these games, that eventually that recognition is going to grow as well.
Absolutely. And I think it's just kind of dope to see come to fruition too, because talking with Carrie before the season, I know just looking at where the Ivy was at, where you guys were at, who was returning, it felt like there was a real chance for you guys to make this a pretty special year. I'd say it's off to a pretty good start with that. So going off that as well too, I have to ask, kind of handling Indiana and then Quinnipiac back to back. I think about as two different a games as you can possibly look at. But obviously being able to bounce back from that's how a season goes. But handling that early because that's again like I think in some ways that kind of loss can derail a team. You get that
Mhm.
high and then you hit that and it's just different. So what did you kind of take away most from that and how you were able to bounce back?
Yeah, I think we were honestly just grateful that it happened early than when it actually mattered. Quinnipiac's a good team, and I think we've attacked each game, especially after Quinnipiac. Like we're not going back to that feeling. It sucked. We felt like shit, to be honest. Like it was an awful feeling, and for personally, I remember like driving once we got back to Levites, once we got back to campus. We usually all go home. I usually go home, take a shower, but I laced my shoes back up and put myself through another hour and a half workout just to get all that anger out. And I think um, setting that tone for our next game and for the games to come, especially after coming off of a loss that bad towards that team, is definitely something that has been on our mind um, with every game approach, including like that St. John's game where we were down approximately like the same amount that we were in halftime against Quinnipiac. We all were in the locker room like, this is not Quinnipiac. We're not going back to that. Like, we have to find a different gear. And thankfully we did, and we came out with a dub. So yeah.
Yeah, and to reiterate too, I think like for people who haven't watched, that Quinnipiac team is so tough. They play like I mean their defense is nasty. They run like a ton of like matchup zone stuff, but then mix in man, and it's like
Yeah.
watching that game. I think it's hard because they were so good at every time it felt like you guys started to problem solve for something. It's like okay, well here's another thing you have to handle.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting way to look at it too because it's that's how it is at the pro level. There's always going to be a different thing thrown at you, a lot of versatility, a lot of things to look at, which is again why it's been fun to watch how you guys keep building off of that. Um, so, like you mentioned though, in terms of going back, having an hour and a half workout afterwards, working on that, like getting to that area. I've heard a lot of your interviews coming up to this in terms of talking about like your mentality and how, especially your first injury and dealing with injury last year too. It was something that really helped you kind of reframe how you look at things mentally. What was the work like this off season to come into this year knowing like I think again you've been a very high
Yeah.
level player, but like hitting that extra gear this season, what did work like that look like for that mentally and also just in terms of what you were doing on court?
Honestly, like the best way I can put it is I put myself through hell this off season. And honestly, it was out of desperation desperation to get recognized, desperation to really achieve my childhood goal, which is to be drafted, desperation to win a championship because we haven't done that in a while here. So honestly, I put myself through a living hell, and I think that's my game is showing the work ethic that I put over that I put in over the summer, and I think that's something that I really take pride in. I look back on and I'm super proud of myself for getting through it because there are definitely moments where I wanted to give up. And yeah, I guess like in simple terms, like I was working on my game, but I was also working on my mental state of mind. I've been going through a lot of lulls throughout my collegiate career, and I refuse to go through those lulls again. So I had to figure something else out. My mom was really on me this summer mentally, and my dad was on me this summer for the physical standpoint. So, and then I was on myself from both ends, and I just think that I'm starting to see that it's coming to fruition, and I'm super grateful for our outcome so far. But yeah, this summer was not easy for me. I definitely hit a lot of low points in my life, and I thought that I was so close to giving up, and I'm glad that I didn't. So yeah, living hell
Yeah, I
for
mean,
sure.
well, when you say walls, like, what does that look like for you in terms of like kind of handling that and seeing the stuff that you know, for this year that you don't want to go through, like that you worked on, so that okay, this is not a thing in 2024, 25.
Right. Lulls just in terms of like mental lulls. I was in this like mental paralysis that I felt like I was stuck in for forever. I felt like I couldn't get out of it, and I didn't know or understand why I was going through these things. So, I had a bunch of different therapy sessions. I have about like three therapists that I speak openly to, and was honestly honed in on that and communicating with them and being super intentional on actually getting better mentally instead of just like showing up and telling them what they kind of want to hear, like I think that was the major shift in why I am having the year that I'm having this year. I refuse to go through that mental lull that I've been through the past 3 years here in college. And again, it's just I guess it's just a desperation piece that I've been feeling for since we lost in the semis last year. So um, it's something that I don't think is going to ever go away, and I'm starting to see that like what I've worked towards is slowly peeking through.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff to dive into there because, like you mentioned, I think so much of it is, at least for me, when I was a boxer. I was not a great basketball player, but I was on the verge of doing some good stuff with boxing. But like you mentioned, I think in terms of being able to kind of tap into some of those other areas, like, okay, how do I like get more consistent in the areas of my life and in my mentality so that I can get consistent on what I do on court? Because I think to me, that's been the biggest jump for you this year is the consistency. Like, I mean, I've watched you put up great games against Power Five teams like Baylor last year. You know,
Hmm.
you have those moments, but I think it's like, okay, how do I do that every game? And if something isn't there, how do I, rise to a level? And I think even this year, there have been games where your shot just
Hmm.
isn't there, isn't falling, but I feel your impact still. Like you see, okay,
Hmm.
cool. Like I think this is the year where it really feels most where like you are a point guard in terms of setting things
Hmm.
up and being able to really dive that down and like I mean that's a really important growth to make and I think exactly like you're saying so much of it's frustrating because I think you don't really get it until later on like you're mentioning but like you think at the beginning like oh I have to do everything on my sport and keep making that better but in
Hmm.
reality so much of it is doing stuff that's completely unrelated to it to be able to unlock those areas so it's big to be able to find that in these moments because it's especially once you get out of college a lot harder to do.
Facts.
Yeah. Um, so going off of, to wrap up on questioning, geez, I just made it sound like an interrogation. To wrap up on interview stuff, um, in terms of talking about the next level, you mentioned that's the dream of yours, the school years. I'll say right now, like I think you absolutely are there. Like you're somebody who should be in those conversations. Just on my own assessment. But looking at that come up for you, are you somebody who has watched a ton of the pros? Like, are you somebody who's kind of always got the game on in the background, dissecting it, taking stuff in, thinking about it? Like, what is how has the W kind of played a factor in the background for you in terms of like your development and watching it?
Yeah, just seeing what different teams kind of um, look for and kind of not necessarily. I don't want to use the word comparing because everyone knows that that's like the thief of joy, but like just kind of implementing or my game to other guards that are in
Hmm.
the league, similarities that I have with some, and trying to see where I can develop in my game personally, so that when I get to the pros level, um, it's easier. It's a easier adjustment, and yeah, like I'm just a fan of basketball. Period. I learned stuff from high school teams. I watch basketball at any level, and I think it's definitely you can learn a lot from it. Not only just in basketball, but also in life. And I think that's the beauty of it. I have so much respect for the game, and I feel like the older you get doesn't mean like you know more. It just means like, hey, there's more for you to learn. And to me, that's going to a high school game and being like, let me see what I can take from them. Or, hey, let's go to the pro. Let me see what I can take from the W. Let me see what I can take from the men's side. Like, I think there's always stuff that I can add to my arsenal, add to my bag, like, and not be super one dimensional. And I think that's super important to me. And I value the game so much, and I'm super grateful for it. And I'm glad that I have this ability to continue to play. So yeah, I don't think the W is not something that I just learned from only. I learned from all levels.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I love that because it's like you said. I mean, basketball is basketball. Um,
mhm,
going off that too, though, I think exactly like you said, so much of it is like I don't know, at least for me, the way I've looked at it, I used to think that you could just like solve basketball, right? But really, it's no. You're constantly adding stuff, constantly learning, constantly seeing new ways to read things, to do things, to feel things out, and especially as a guard, like that's so important because there's like I mean, every team wants to play differently. I think that's one of the hardest things to try and explain to people. Like so much of making it the next level isn't about being the most talented. Like obviously you have to have talent, but okay,
mhm,
can you be the most talented in this system? And can you
mhm.
elevate the players around you? And can you be elevated by what they do? And like, it's the hard part of kind of dissecting some of that stuff and rounding out your game to get to
Yeah.
that level. Um, are there any players that you maybe have like taken most from, or that you kind of see some of yourself in?
For the men's side, probably like Kyrie.
I've seen that
Just
for sure.
his balance, his handles, his control. Um, I just think is fascinating. And from the women's side, definitely Enrique. I've watched her since college, and I think she is someone that I kind of implement my game after. Um, and I think also, like, in regards to passing, probably Sue Bird, her ability when she was playing, like, her ability to pass the ball is tremendous and very fascinating. And I feel like I have sparks where I make a few of those passes that kind of stimulate her game. And yeah, I think those are the two players on the women's side and the one player on the men's side that I kind of like study the most. Obviously, everyone studies LeBron, MJ,
Of
Kobe, like
course.
everyone does that. You know what I mean? But like in terms of like actually dissecting stuff, like those three. I may even throw like Steph Curry in there just because like I just feel like his work ethic, despite all the people saying that he was too small to be in the league and like where he is now, I think that's super inspirational and keeps me going because I hear similar things. So yeah, I like to
Yeah,
add stuff into that.
I like that. I think a player that I would bring up to somebody else from Texas. You obviously I think you guys have very different games, but in terms of like I think movement, how you dribble, a lot like Mariah Jefferson. I think somebody I
Yeah.
watch
Oh
that I
my
see
God.
like
I was.
yeah, I was gonna say a
Yeah.
ton in like your shiftiness, the ability that you can kind of go east west and like open things up. There's a lot there. Like obviously you're taller quite a bit than Mariah, but I think in that regard, like Because I was like, I don't know, I always want to like kind of put something in the back of my mind. Like, who are they similar to? Like, what does that look like developmentally? And I think I see that a lot in your game for sure.
Yeah, Mariah's oh my god, we had the same trainer, for a while. So, I've been watching Mariah since she was with DFW,
Yeah,
and, she's definitely somebody that, I look up to. It's like a bigger sister older sister for me,
I love
for sure.
that. I love that. That's awesome. And that's funny too because you can totally see it in your game. But
Yeah.
um, let me get this film loaded up really quick. Before I even get started with that, while I'm loading it up, one of the questions I want to ask you, and this is something I was talking about with Ken's the other day, on her shift from going to playing at Harvard and carry system to going and playing at USC. Um, so you haven't like I think obviously, and it's partially just things are different when you're playing at the Ivy Leagues. You guys don't really have a true big. He's playing a lot more five out, a lot of creating east west. Like I think it's so different because people think pick and roll and they're like, okay, well, you're playing with a big, you're doing this, you're doing that, and part of why I love carry system because it fits so well with what you guys do. But a lot of what you do out of pick and roll, correct me if you feel otherwise, but it's like it's to create a shot for yourself. Like obviously it's to get
Mhm,
a something going, you want to create an open shot, but so much of what you guys do is you have players who 5 players you can shoot, drive pass on the same team, but like creating something for a guard typically, where I think more so at the next level, we're going to see more and more of okay, really operating with a big and being able to create
mhm,
passing windows and reads out of that. Um, so, because I know obviously you played with bigs before in your career, but I think that's something for me that I was thinking about the other day where I'm like, watching your game, I think there's so much more that you can keep opening up with as a passer to the next level, getting to kind of do some of that stuff. But I was wondering if that's something you've ever thought about or kind of what you take from, playing in a system that's more of a, I don't want to say score first, but like in terms of, it opens up a lot more for guards, I think, than it does typically in other systems.
mhm. Yeah, I think, I guess to answer your question a little bit, if I understood it correctly, but yeah, I think something that I'm really focused on is just elevating my game overall, not being so one dimensional. I feel like my passing definitely um, is a little bit underappreciated, and I feel like I do pass the ball very, very well. But I also feel like there can be tremendous improvement in that, as can my entire game. And I think something that I've been emphasizing all year is that I don't want to be super one dimensional. I don't want to just be able to just score the ball.
Mhm.
Like, I don't want to be known for just being able to score the ball. So yeah, my overall game is something that I'm definitely looking forward to elevating for sure, especially
Yeah.
being at the next level. I feel like it has to.
For sure. And I botched I answered that I asked that question terribly. I mean in general, like I know you can pass and I like a lot of what you bring as a passer. And my point's more like looking to the next level. I think one of the questions people have is like, okay, well, what does it look like when you get to play with the true big again? Playing with somebody who is like, I mean, you guys really don't have north south gravity in terms of like rim running and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I feel like, whenever I watch, it's a lot less, getting stuff out of a pocket pass or being able to hit the corner because you're not really getting that kind of drawing the defense off stuff like that. So it's just a different thing to look at, and something I'm pretty confident in you being able to do. But I think it's going to be interesting because again, like people always are looking at things in different ways.
For
Um,
sure.
but it's like I mean exactly what we're talking about. There's just everything is different. There's different levels to it.
Hmm.
So to start, obviously have to start off with this play because I don't know if you're aware of this. This is something Indiana ran a ton last year. They do it this year as well, but it's what you guys used to send this game to overtime and end up winning. Um, I wanted to ask, just going into this play. Obviously, this is something scripted, but like, what was kind of the hope of what to get out of this? Obviously, it worked well, but like, kind of going into this, what were you reading? What are the things that you're most looking for to get out of this?
Yeah, this is a play that Coach Moore has put in since she's got here, and it's worked probably 90% of the time.
It's so hard to guard.
Especially, I'm gonna say, especially when ran right.
Hmm.
And I remember after the huddle, I told Rocco, that's who shot the three, I
Hmm.
was like, I guarantee you they're gonna send two to me. So just be ready to shoot that thing. And they did exactly that. She ran it right. I told her to go under KK's defender so that because if she would have cut in front of KK's defender, that girl probably would have came out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I told her to go under KK's defender, come out to the three. They're gonna send your player's gonna send come to me, and KK's defender's gonna stay with hers because she can't see that you're going under her, and just be ready to shoot it. And she did.
And she was ready to shoot it. Yeah, no, that
Yeah,
was I love it. I think it's so great to break it down that way because again, like it's just so tough because even if you're switching everything on this, you have to be so in tune with everything to actually switch it right. And also, you can't
exactly.
really switch it because it's a slip. So, like,
Exactly. I was like, if they send two to if they don't send two to me, then the person guarding me, I can either go by her, and then I have my jump shot at the Big Ten logo, um, or a kick out to the corner, or if KK's defender comes to me, she can just slip it, and it's the same thing. So like, it's really difficult to guard that, especially when you run it right. The timing has to be very precise, and I feel like we executed it very well. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, no, ran perfectly, honestly. Which is what made it really fun because you guys ran, I think, 2 games later against Boston College and was
Yeah.
also phenomenal in this game as well. It was a different setup though, because towards the end of this game, obviously you had been pretty good in this game. So they're trying to deny, keep the ball out of your hands. Obviously, a good job to
Mhm.
sell it and set up. But exactly, I mean, like just exact same play, but run differently a little bit.
Mhm.
Initiated differently, and then same result. Um, as we're going through too, feel free to stop me so I can like go back, rewind, look at anything. But
Yeah, of course.
um, it's just yeah, it's a conversation
You're
on it.
showing all our plays now.
Well, no, I'm not gonna. I mean, hey, you know, if it's on film, anybody can break it down. So that's what at least how I always put it. Um, so I mean, there are so many things in your game that I love. Like, I think you are legitimately at like being a 3 level scorer now. I think that one of the things I didn't even ask you about, like your rim finishing has improved like dramatically since you first
Mhm.
got here. I think you shot like 42, 43% at the rim your freshman year. You're around like 56, 57 this year, which is way better and a very good mark to be at. What has been most important for you in kind of getting more comfortable inside the arc and getting more efficient as a scorer there?
Not being afraid of contact
Hmm.
and working on that, getting my I'm sorry if I swear, but like
Oh, you're good. I swear all the time. It's fine.
just getting my butt kicked over the summer in the paint and being able to finish through contact, I think is something that I really wanted to emphasize and elevate in my game, because I knew that it was terrible, coming into my senior year, and my trainers have done a really great job at basically kicking my butt in that area, and it's just been second nature. So I guess I don't really like think about it as much anymore as I
Yeah,
used to. Just expecting the contact and just being able to use their body and mine to finish the basket or to finish the ball under the basket.
I love that, and that's something we're gonna dive into in the next couple of plays. But I love this because, like, just in general, again, like I think so often people think of the mid range and they're like, okay, well, it's inefficient shots. This is that. Obviously, it's a very good shot for you. You're really good off the dribble in the mid range.
Mhm.
But like we're talking about, like using contact and just like putting her in jail, getting into a, I
Mhm.
mean, you get a free throw off of it. Like that's big time
Mhm.
stuff. It's important. It's how you draw defenses, how you do anything off that is really phenomenal and important to do. Because I think again, like so much of like what makes an efficient shot is what you can cause a defense to do. Like you can
Mhm.
be the best shooter in the world, but if the defense doesn't care because you rarely shoot, it doesn't matter. Like you got to be
Yeah.
able to do it routinely and make somebody care.
Mhm.
Um, right here. So one of the things I want to ask is I talked about this with Carrie early on in the year because one of the things I love about her offense is she just lets you be you. But like,
Mhm.
especially in kind of like feeling that out, like knowing, okay, cool, this is early offense. You have a great opportunity to play one on one. And again, like your space creation stuff going east west is like really good. But like, how do you kind of decide? And then again, it's probably less of a decision thing. It's more just it happens. But like, knowing, okay, I have the ability to make and take really tough shots, but also creating, what goes into that for you? Or is there anything that is kind of like not a benchmark per se, but like
Yeah.
something where it's like, okay, this is where I have like a level to say like, all right, this is my shot, or no, I'm going to move the ball.
Yeah, I think aside from it being um, instinctive. I think another part is reps.
Mhm.
Um, like that shot, I got a lot of reps in that shot, especially over the summer. I got a lot of transition reps, and also just being confident. I feel like once you have that like split second of um, not being confident in anything, 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna make a good shot because that can
Yep.
easily be a bad shot, but it went in because I also practice it, so therefore it's like it's just still a good shot and it's on balance and things like that.
Exactly.
Um, so I just think just being really confident in your craft and like let's just say I did miss the shot. Who cares? Let's figure out a way to get it back. So I
Yeah.
just think like just really having that confidence in your game and trusting and understanding that hey, I'm not going to make every single shot, but when the opportunity comes, I'm going to take that opportunity. So that was just one of the things that I felt like I was just kind of in flow, and kind of allowed my instincts to take over. But I also know that I work on that shot like 1,000 times, so I'm not
Yeah,
really
it's
worried.
good instincts because I mean, to add like an element too, because I mean, this is for reference. I don't know if you're aware. This is the first year where you have shot better on catch and shoot threes than you have on pull up threes, and that's not because your pull up threes have dipped down, but I think it's you've gotten even like I went back and I was watching some stuff in the last couple of years, and like your footwork, shot prep, everything without the ball has gotten so much better, and that's
Hmm.
again when you talk about being a three-level scorer, that's so important because like you got to be able to do it on and off the ball, and that's I
Hmm.
mean becoming more efficient when you don't have the ball makes it easier to do things that are like this on the ball, in my opinion, because it
Hmm.
just gives you free reign to be yourself as a player. I do have to ask too. I love the dap up at the end. Is this just a random person, or did you? I'm assuming you knew who it was.
I actually know who she was,
Okay.
but like even if it was a random person, I probably still would have dapped them up. It was just
Yeah.
like just to add little
I
fun
mean,
to
you
the
have
game,
to.
a
You
little
have to.
personality, you know.
I'm a big fan. It was great. Um, I don't know how much of the NBA you watched. I know you said you talked about the Celtics for a minute, Kyrie, but like there was a play I think last year where Bones Highland hit a pull up three to. I don't think it won the game, but he just like he gave the biggest dap I've ever seen in the game to just a random person on the sideline instead of running back in transition. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in basketball. But having that personality is big. I love it because I mean, it
Yeah.
comes out in your game every time you play. Um, right here, I love this too because like just you I mean, you and your big are both calling this out to clear out the side. Is this something that you guys had like thought through before game, or is this something just we're just playing basketball, flow, get out of the corner, we want to open that up?
Yeah, so me and Elena, I feel like we're really, really well together. I feel like our two man
I agree.
is great. And sometimes we kind of a lot of the times actually we're just on the same page about things. And if you kind of rewind back, we're both telling her to move,
Yep.
like clear out, clear out, clear out. And it was like when I watched the game, I low key didn't even realize that she was saying clear out, like we were
Yeah.
doing it at the same time. But yeah, we just kind of it's kind of like a yin yang thing. We kind of just, feed off each other very well. And we do work on 2 player, 3 player side. A lot of and then we just read the defense. We kind of just dissect the game to that. Also, Elena and I are probably in the gym a lot more than the other our other teammates, but um yeah, so it just kind of it's kind of second nature, but at the same time like Coach Moore kind of wants us to play 2 and 3 player side.
Absolutely. I mean, because I
So
mean,
if
look
it's
what this
not
opens
broke,
up.
don't fix
Like,
it.
yeah, I mean, you get middle of the defense, and because you clear out that side, like, there's no tag. Like, I mean, the tag is stress. Like, it makes it way harder, makes it a lot harder on the players here because it's a good screen and roll from Lane. Like,
Hmm.
that opens up the midi, perfect stuff. Like, because again, like if you guys don't do that, she's just standing here. Then there's an immediate help right on. I mean, technically they're not
Hmm.
supposed to help strong side, but it's like right there. You're gonna have
Hmm.
bodies on the roll. It makes it a lot harder. So it's again, it's just you love seeing little things like that in game because it's big to again getting excited too, which I love. But you got to have that. It's good stuff to see.
Thank you.
hmm So right here too, I think this is probably my favorite play you've had this entire year.
Mhm.
Because for me, like it's funny, like you talked about. I love what you mentioned in terms of feeling out contact because for me, you're so good at doing the hard things on court. I think getting better at, I mean, getting more consistent at doing the easy things and like opening up the easy stuff for you is like what takes you to that next level, right? And I think you've gotten way better at doing that this year. Because for me, like this is so often like you're fast. Everybody on the court knows you're fast, and then you can get to the cup whenever you want. But doing this, just like waiting, engaging two players because off of the lane of screen, they have to peel that. So
Mhm.
engaging the big, using your hezzy, putting her in space, and then getting that. I mean, it's a wide open shot just off using your mind. Because I think so
Mhm.
often people think I just have to be fast and get to the rim.
Yeah.
You get a better shot at the rim because you drag this out and use that extra 1-2 feet of space. Like that's, I mean, doing this stuff regularly, which you've done this season, is so important in again just being more effective in that stuff.
Yeah. I think it's also important just to breathe sometimes. Like
Yes.
a lot of defenders are expected to guard or used to guarding just like one pace players. And I think having that change of speed is super important in elevating your game as well and keeping your defender on their toes. And understanding, reading her feet. So I'm not really looking at the big girl that's guarding me. I'm looking at Carly's man that's rising with her.
Hmm.
So if I hezzy, I can also hezzy to shot. I can hezzy to go to the basket. I can hezzy to kick out to Carly that's coming out, that's coming up the top. But just kind of like being able to breathe and seeing the entire court for like that split second before making your next move, I feel like is super important as well.
Absolutely, because I think like again, like so much of being, I mean, like you mentioned Sue Bird off top, like being a player like that who can read things, see things is it's not about playing fast, it's about playing in control and like having the court at your will a little bit. And I think being able to
Hmm.
be in the zone of like, okay, when you do this, you weaponize all the things you can do. Like you're awesome on your mid-range shot. You can't just give that up. You get that over because of what you can do from a pull-up. And I mean, they don't want to give this up because you're there on the
Hmm.
drive. Then you obviously have the kick. Like it's all about making all those things happen and it's in a split second. It's like,
Hmm.
again, not to like gas you, but that stuff is just, I mean, that's really good stuff.
Thank you.
Hmm. So right here, yeah, obviously again, getting denied a little bit. And then I love again, just quick stick to get back to it. Working back into the ball screen on an empty side now. I like this too because again, just engaging the big because I think somebody could look
Mhm.
at this and be like, "Oh, you could just throw the pass right away without dribbling," but get the extra dribble.
She wouldn't have stepped, yeah,
Exactly. Like you
and you
get the
also gotta
step.
look at the player at the basket, so
Hmm.
me taking that dribble allowed her to get closer to my Abigail in the corner. If I didn't take that dribble, Elena probably would've got blocked or woulda had a tougher shot to finish, so my goal is just to make it as easy as possible for my teammates to get easy buckets, especially since I'm getting hounded all the time. So I feel like that dribble was necessary in order to open up the lane for Elena. Because if you kind of go back a little bit, like as I'm coming off the screen, she's still at the basket, still at the basket. And then I keep going. I take that dribble. She kind of shifts her weight towards Abigail, who's in the corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
No,
So
that's
like,
exactly.
so seeing and understanding that, like, all I needed her to do was just move just a hair so I can throw that ball in there. And this is all like kind of going through my mind as I'm playing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
No, I
I
love
feel like
it because again, like I think so often people look at something like just make the pass right away, but to me it's especially for you too, like because you're so good getting where you want with your ball handling, like not killing your dribble and like being able to use it to keep defenders engaged is so big and just opening up stuff like that. And this is one of the things too where I look at like as incredible as Elena is, like I watch this play too, and I'm like, okay, well, what if this is next level? I'm like, that's a 6'5" big. Like, those are things that are different that, especially like I think people don't recognize that. Especially when you're looking at pocket stuff. Anything in the pocket is just different when depending on who your screener is. And I think
mhm,
so that's gonna be really fun to watch with you at the next level. So this play, I want to ask you about because this play breaks down a little bit. I want to ask how you would tackle it differently at the end. Rewatching this one, obviously they worked a lot of different stuff on defense with this in general. Kind of shift to a zone here. Um, when you watch this play back, what would you rather do in this? Because I think this one's tough. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have, like, an answer really, but I was wondering, what
Yeah,
you
yeah,
think
yeah.
kinda watching it back.
2 things. One, I'll ask Elena to hit somebody on the screen if
Mhm.
she's gonna screen or just clear out, because now you're just bringing 2 players. 2, I'll tell Rocco to go deep corner, okay? And then 3, I'll honestly just probably start from the middle third instead of all the way on that side.
Yeah.
And then and then kind of like use 15, engage 15 into Elena's screen more so I can get to that pull up area and I may have a shot or a dump down. As you can see, Abigail's peeking. So I'm looking kind of like cross-eyed a little bit. Like I
Yeah.
see Abigail and I really want to hit her, but at the same time I'm like I can't get it to her right now because that big is not engaging enough and I haven't got 15 to hit the screen yet. So I'm trying to figure something out and I just feel like it was a bad play on my part. I feel like I could have just um when I talk about breathing, probably breathe a little bit more in that area and uh yeah, brought her into that screen. Because once I get to the heart of the defense, which is that middle part, I either have a shot, a kick out to the deep corner. Because what is Rocco's player gonna do? We don't know if she's gonna step or not. Or I have an easy dump down to Abigail, but I couldn't get there. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think because like you said with the screening aspect, like working on those things together, like obviously you can't just like yell out and I mean you could yell out in game like
yeah,
screen hard, but like, easier said than done.
yeah, sure.
Especially communicating that kind of stuff with your screeners. Like what does that look like for you? I mean, throughout a game, just in general, like preparation stuff.
Yeah, Elena especially knows how passionate I am and how precise things have to be. Like my teammates know that. I think that's also um like in regard like I think that's also like the helping our success this year because we're not basically half-assing things. So like after that play, I kind of just went up to her and I was just like, maybe I should have slowed down. I think this is a two-part problem. I should have brought 15 into you more, but like set the screen higher
Hmm.
also. And that's something that we Elena and I are definitely have to work on a little bit more is that use like once the clock kind of gets down to that area, like if I want her to come stream for me, like we have to work on that specific like two player action for sure. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
it's nothing
definitely.
like too it's nothing like, oh my god, like life or death. It's just kind of this something
Yeah,
you gotta
no, I
work
mean,
on, you know?
exactly. Like nothing is ever gonna go perfect in a game. I think that's the point. Like that's why I wanted to ask because I think in general, like, being able to find ways to create in these moments is big.
Mhm.
And I love that you pointed out too about the corner because I think some people will look at this and be like, oh, she's open. That's not open. Like that's such an easy sink down for the weak side defender and then an X out. Like you don't have to no, there's nothing there. So I think that's the hard part though, too, because exactly like you see an opening, and really sometimes it's just not an opening because you don't get anything on the front end. And it's just, you know, basketball is a hard game sometimes in that regard. And we're never gonna be perfect on
Yeah.
either side of the ball. Um, so it's fun too, like we mentioned about context. I think it's been like right here, like we talked about some of the stuff with engaging. I know this ends up a turnover, but when you watch this play back too, like what do you look at with this one and kind of think with it?
Um 2 things. I think I probably should have set her up better, KK up better. I thought during the game, like, sometimes I feel like I can mind read and it's always wrong, but I thought during the game she was going to kinda seal her off with
Hmm.
her back and not kinda go into her. Um, and also I think if I would've breathed just a little bit more and if Gabby would've rose higher, I coulda hit that opposite corner by the Wii
Hmm.
thing by their bench. Could have hit that opposite corner, but it was just a little cluttered, and I didn't take a second longer.
Yeah. No, I like you
Um,
pointing that out because I think in general, like again, like the corner is just like never as easy to hit as I think people make it out to be.
yeah,
Because like that pass has to be so fast, so pinpoint. Exactly like
exactly.
you said, if that rise isn't fully there, like I mean, if it's there maybe a little bit quicker, like it hits different. But yeah, I think like you said, nothing's ever perfect and clean. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's all like good process stuff. It's just like just getting that stuff. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I was just saying these are just things to learn, and again, like, yes, it's a basketball game, so you can't really play a perfect game. I wish you could, but you can't. So there's always things to learn, and I think that's the beauty of basketball. I think that's also like a life lesson too. So you're always learning. But yeah, for sure, I think that definitely could have been executed a little bit better, for sure.
Well, and
I could have set her up a little bit better, I think.
yeah. Well, when you say set her up a little better, like I know what you mean, but like what are the things that you would do like right here? Like, okay, what would you do to set this up differently?
Well, this part right here, I think was fine.
Hmm.
Coming off the screen, I think was fine. That was fine. Um, the part that I could have set up better, I could have told Gabby to rise a little bit. I could have whipped it to that corner right now because even if the Gabby did not rise, her defender's not looking at the ball.
Hmm.
KK's defender, or sorry, KK's defender is on me. She's at the Big East mark. The corner defender is looking at me. So it's like, okay, nobody's looking at that corner. Like and I see it, but that was one of those things where it's just like I tried to mind read it and it just didn't go right.
Yeah.
I was like, I think she could still like make this layup over this because the guard was really, really small. So I'm like, I think she can make this layup over this guard. She has like 2 feet on her.
Yeah.
But then it didn't.
Well,
It didn't work.
it's exactly what you're saying. I think that's part of what's interesting because again, like I think to me, I watched this in like next level. If this is a 6'5" big and that's a like 5'8" guard, I totally get that exactly. Like I think that's the
Also, I
basketball is
probably would
different.
have just lobbed it to her if she was 6'5".
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
like,
Basketball is
yeah,
different at every level, like because that's why I asked you about the screening aspect because, like I said, talking to Kenzie about that, she was like, honestly, in some ways, like, pick and roll is easier when you have a big. She was like, "That's something I really felt like going to USC and playing with, like, Rhea Marshall, Clarice Okunwafu, like, that's just very different looks and, not that it's better or worse, but it's just, again, just different stuff for a guard."
hmm
So this one is fun because they tried to go under on you a ton early in the game, which I thought was really interesting. They obviously get a good screen on this one. I'm sorry, I looked at my notes wrong. But in terms of like going at contact, I think it's fun because you talked about the going through contact aspect earlier. This one, you don't quite go around. Yeah, I mean, you try and go around contact instead of through it, which is why it makes some of the stuff that you do later in this game really fun. So I think you see
hmm
right here, which is why I loved you talking about how you've embraced contact now because right here, like,
after that layup, I was
yeah.
like, there you go, avoiding contact again. Like,
Yeah.
these are things that kind of go on throughout the game. Like, I kind of just I think about different things that I kind of like. Let's say old habits I kind of revert to. I'm just like, you know, you're not supposed to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Um, I do my best to give myself as much grace as possible because I feel like I'm super hard on myself. And honestly, I feel like I've seen this clip like 1,000 times. Um, so yeah, after this play, I was just like, well, you didn't make it because you were trying to avoid contact and expecting a foul call, but it's like there's no contact. So
Well, I have it, yeah, because I have that next play loaded up because, yeah, it's
yeah,
good stuff, but, like, yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, um, it's the hard part, right? Because, like, we're talking about, like, being able to take that breath and, like, get to that spot is so big in opening
yeah,
those things up, and it's something that you get to, so, um, but like you said, I think problem solving that in the game is what stands out to me, like, going like, "Okay, cool. I have the opportunity to, like, change this up." Because oh wait, sorry, I had this clip instead of that other one. Because like yeah, they go under with you on this one too, and exactly like I think personally, I think this probably should have been a foul call.
hmm
Did not wind up a foul call, but like that's the hard part too, right? Because like we talked about earlier, with that rise coming up off the as you drive, like getting that lift. I think that pass is available. Like,
oh, for sure.
but like I understand like totally like going for this and like getting because normally that should be a foul call for you. You're really good at drawing fouls. Um, but that's why this play sorry, I should have gotten to it fast. That's why I love, like, seeing this stuff because, cool, you're able to take advantage of it. You wanna take that under, I'm going to just pull up. Take the breath, pull up, I'm able to work into that.
hmm
Because you're so good with I mean, your pull-up threes, like, you shoot it at I think you're around, like, 31, 32% on pull-up threes right now. Probably a little bit higher for that for your whole career, and that is, like, for reference, like, the best pull-up three-point shooters in the W right now around, like, 30%. So, being at that level is pretty big time because it's I don't know, like, again, with how much you watch the W, at least in the NBA, unders are it's really hard to go under on people. In the
Yeah.
W, it still happens a lot, and I think we're
Mhm.
going to start hitting a level where the guards, like a player like you coming in, like you can't go under on you consistently.
Mhm.
So having that comfort, having that ability is, I mean, it's really important stuff. I did want to ask too. You mentioned in terms of your balance, I think your balance is pretty insane with a lot of things you're able to do, especially going like off of anything east west. So good. You can look like you're practically falling over sometimes, but you're still fully in control of the ball and your body. What has been big in kind of finding that, especially too, coming off of knee injuries? Because I know for me, I have a
Mhm.
meniscus tear that I don't have time to get fixed. But like I know what that does for me balance wise. Like I'm
Mhm.
still athletic, but like I can't do anything with just my right leg. So like, what was that like? Kind of the process of balancing out and getting back to that level.
Yeah, I think balance was something that I put a extreme emphasis on, in terms of like elevating in my game. I think that's something that I kind of struggle with growing up just because I kind of have like a hitch in my shot. It's always
Mhm.
been there since I've started basketball and I don't know how to get rid of it. So I just learned how to work with it. And I learned that so there's two things with balance when it comes to shooting, obviously your shoulders, but also your feet. So as long as my shoulders are square to the basket and my feet are on balance, like any other movement in between, hence my hitch and my shot, um, doesn't really matter. And I think that's something you can kind of see my hip kind of go up. But
Mhm.
um, that's something that I kind of put emphasis towards because usually I'll that shot probably would have went left if I didn't work on like different balancing techniques with the ball. Over the summer, I was doing like sprint, 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 pull up into a shot, like stopping on the dime to pull up to work on that balance because that's something that I definitely have struggled with for pretty much the majority of my collegiate career. And I really wanted to put emphasis on that, like I'm able to make balanced shots, quick and balanced shots, and have them go in. So yeah.
It absolutely stands out how you've improved on it because yeah, I mean, that's one of even with your floater this year, I think you've seen more of that too. Like you've always had the floater, but I think like you said, always having your shoulders square, like being able to get off a floater. Like it's so easy for a floater to bank left or right depending on how you finish. So like being able to always have that being towards the basket is really big time with that. Um going to this last play, exactly what we talked about, the finishing stuff. Like so much of getting into contact, like, because they're giving that under again. Getting into contact is so much of like unleashing you as a finisher. So again, like one of my favorite clips from you this year because I think this is so good. Like you initiate the contact first, which is really big in getting leverage, and then you just get into your easy stuff. Like um, that's the moneymaker. I mean, that's a big reason why you guys were able to win this game is how you were able to kind of change course with that a little bit and get back and show like, okay, this is what I have. So it's really great stuff. Um, Harmony, that's all I got clip wise. To close out, I mean, is there anything you want to mention or shout out before we get out of here?
Just shout out my Pretty Insecure Girls. Love you guys. My nonprofit, my mom. And shout out to everybody else in the Ivy League and to those that are overlooking us. Please don't do that anymore because we actually can hoop over here. So yeah, that's all I got.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely do not be underlooking or overlooking, I should say, the Ivy. There's so much good talent there. Unfortunately, she got injured this year, but Madison St. Rose, one of my favorite players to watch, is going to be a pro as well. She's so good. Um, yeah, never overlook the Ivy. Too much good stuff going on there. Harmony, I really appreciate your time. To everyone listening and watching, be sure to keep up with all things Harvard women's basketball. A lot of great season ahead for them. I think you guys take on what, UMass tomorrow? Soon?
No, take on BU next week.
Close enough. Okay. Well, I am looking at the wrong schedules. At least I'm in the same state. But to everyone watching, be sure to go hit subscribe down below if you haven't already. Enjoy the rest of your day.